is this toys rejecting Andy? Is this toys rejecting their God? Is this represent God versus God's creations, or is this more like a parental dynamic where Andy's the parent and the toys are his children? And either way, is it okay for that superior being to abandon these lower beings that are clearly attached to him?
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting Peters. Is it Disney mind controlled? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, we teach occult to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's above so below. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Occult Disney podcast. It's where we play with all of the toys behind Disney movies, and we have to keep playing with them. We cannot forget them. We cannot abandon them. We cannot leave these toys in a box. It's Toy Story 3 today. This is Matt here. It's a paranoid American over there.
This is the most insidious Disney movie of all time, in my opinion. We're just going to throw it out there.
It's not cool and groovy. It's not CNG.
I mean, it has merit. There's some good parts about it, but it has the worst lesson. There's no real Aesop fable here, but if there were an Aesop fable, it gets kind of dark and it gets very materialistic, more so than any other Disney movie than I can even think of. And at this point, I feel like we can say we're experts.
Yeah. Now, see that I've been looking forward to this because I actually love this movie. I think it's great. At the same time, the darkness is clearly there, so I'm also very willing to get into that. And this is one that I did show my kid a bunch. I've seen this movie 30 times. She wanted to see Toy Story 3 a lot. I've seen this way more than the other Toy Story movies. So
does your kid have an unusual attachment to material possessions and think that they're inhabited by souls?
I was thinking about that this morning. She has unceremoniously dumped enough toys into the trash, like spring cleanings and stuff. Like she just started high school and got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And there were a few things like, oh, you're getting rid of that. I've mentioned it before. I've replaced the Cookie Monster with Lotso today for obvious reasons, but I actually did save Lotso from the trash because my wife had thrown him and the Cookie Monster into a trash bag. What the hell? You don't throw those away. You don't throw Lotso away. He'll come back and murder you in your sleep,
Wait, your kid has an actual Lotso bear?
Yeah.
Is that Lotso behind you?
That's Lotso behind me here. We can do the podcast like this if you want.
That's kind of creepy. Strawberry?
There's a very small hint. This Lotso is 15. We bought it shortly after releasing the movie, so he's 15 years old. And I know at the end of the movie, the trash guy who apparently just picks up pieces of trash and sniffs them as hard as he can could still smell the strawberries, but that's unlikely. So.
And straps him to the front of the truck, and that's where Lotso has been ever since.
This one's a happy one. He doesn't have a cane. Some of the Lotso toys, he looks grumpy and has a cane. So I don't see this as being the one in the movie, right? If we are going to add personality to our toys, see, maybe I'm the one that came away with that instead of my daughter.
It sounds like we both, for the first time, both have very strong personal connections to this particular movie for some reason.
Yeah, I was saying beforehand, I used to have a Lotso Bear shirt too at the time. I just thought because when my daughter watched it, she was 2 and she sparked up to Lotso. Like she didn't understand the story, so she just really liked Lotso. So it's like, so there we go. I was like, I have to buy Lotso. She likes the evil bear. Yeah.
Well, Lotso is the powers that be in this movie. He's this ultimate supervillain conspiracy. Like he's operating an actual conspiracy. He has eye in the sky, right? This monkey, ends up acting as big brother that's watching everyone and tells you if things are happening, and that Lotso is the one running this daycare and deciding who gets hazed and who has to go through initiation and who can skip initiation because they offer some sort of value to him. And then he puts you under monarch mind control programming and turns you into an actual assassin that has amnesia. Like it kind of represents so many of the things that usually we have to bend over backwards a little bit. Like, oh, this is kind of like this. This one is such a direct representation of an actual conspiracy, like a dark government operated conspiracy represented by a Lotso bear.
And then, yeah, you take the microcosm, make it macrocosm. I guess the way I've always seen it is like this is like Disney's, remake of Cool Hand Luke for children, which I guess it kind of is. Lots of sort of in that role, So you can even on the microcosm, if you don't, of course, we do want to put that weird conspiracy layer, but even the microcosm, it's like, oh, this is Disney's version of Cool Hand Luke, and that's pretty strange. I mean, they get the box, all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think too. Just stepping back from the occult breakdown, just critically and watching this movie and comparing it to Toy Story 1 and 2, this one, it feels like there's some kind of footing. There's a swagger and a confidence where we're not going to obsess or bend, to go out of our way to show some kind of technical feats with the 3D or the rendering and like weird perspectives. All that sort of in the bag, and they can actually focus and have a little bit of fun with the storyline. A lot of inside jokes. They kind of make this one more enjoyable for an older audience, I think, compared to the first two. The first one's incredibly juvenile. The second one, they're sort of finding their footing, and in this one, they already have the formula locked down. They've got the tool set locked down, so they can actually make a movie out of it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was the feel that I got from it.
No, totally. Actually, yesterday I was talking to I was training a new coworker actually, and she was like, "Yeah, I was saying I was doing this today and watching Toy Story 3," and she was like, "Yeah, I'm exactly the age Andy was." So she grew up with the film. So when Toy Story 1 came out, she was what, 7 or something. So when 2 came out, she was a little older. When Toy Story 3 came out, she was actually going to college when this movie came out. So,
I didn't even put the numbers together. Does this one age sort of real time? I guess so. If you know someone that aged the same way, because in this one, Andy is 17 and he's leaving to go to college. They make a note of that he's 17. So does that mean if you watch the first Toy Story and you were roughly his age, then you're 17 when Toy Story 3 comes out?
Actually, I think it doesn't work out exactly that way. Because let's say Andy was 6 when Toy Story came out, 6, 7. He was that old, right? So, and then Toy Story 2, he only is like a year older, right? So that
right,
4
there's
years
not a age progression. And technically, in this one, when we start out, he still is a kid, and then there's a passage of time in the first 10-15 minutes, and then he miraculously grows up to be 17.
Right. So I guess technically he should be a little bit older, but I mean, if you grew up with these movies, it's roughly going to fit, right? And she did note that, I was going to college exactly when this movie came out. So, her whole family's sobbing at the movie for those reasons. Like mom at the end.
Is it weird to still play with toys that you had fun with when you were 6 or 7 when you're 17 as well? And let me just clarify. I don't mean to have it on a shelf somewhere and like, oh yeah, that's this cool Wolverine doll. But I literally mean like, I'm fighting you and, go and save the princess and all this. Because there is a little bit of that. Like even as a 17-year-old, he's kind of playing with his toys the same way that he did when he was 6 or 7.
Well, I do have a box of like my childhood Legos in this closet, which again,
Legos get a pass, man, because it's sort of engineering.
That was one of the things my daughter was throwing away, several Lego things. And I thought she was throwing away all of them. There's a family house actually where most of them are. So I was like, oh, you're throwing away food. That's whatever. That's fine. There were a couple I kept. They were cool dragons. I was like, don't throw away the cool dragons. And then there was like, for some reason, a Big Bang Theory apartment. So I was like,
so you're the problem here.
I'm the problem. Yeah, I'm the pack rat.
Is this because you were indoctrinated by Disney in the Disney heartland more so than the rest of your family? Did somehow not growing up with Disney movies make it so that they can just throw their toys away?
Maybe they do grow up with all that stuff. Disney's pervasive in Japan, but here's one thing in Japan. Think about Sanrio or something like. What
Right.
is Hello Kitty's story? You know, what is Kuromi's story? I don't know. Nobody. It's not like people watch. There are Hello Kitty movies, but people don't really watch them. So a lot of like the Cookie Monster, like he's just like a character. People don't really see him as like something that's in things. And people do watch the Toy Story movies, but a lot of the Disney characters are really just like characters, you know. And I think Americans are more like, oh, here's Kermit the Frog. He does this, this, and this. And in Japan, it's like there's a weird looking frog that we put on a T-shirt sometimes. If that makes sense.
I don't understand it. I can't understand it.
They don't care about the stories. They just care about the iconography, you know. Which is, but then anime, you know, everybody's going to know, like, or manga, everyone's going to know Luffy's story from One Piece. I haven't read One Piece. I don't know Luffy's story. I didn't watch that live action Netflix thing either. So I don't really know much about One Piece, but yeah, like it's like a kind of rite of passage. You're going to read all of One Piece and know what these characters do, but you're not necessarily going to know what the Muppets do.
Yeah, One Piece is like the Japanese Hemingway, I assume.
Pirates and stuff. Do you want to know One Piece?
I only know there's a guy with a straw hat and like a red shirt, and he lives on a raft or something.
Yeah, see, that's about all. He's a pirate, but that's about all I know because I haven't, you know, watched these or read these, and I just haven't, you know. But kids are always
maybe coming soon. Maybe we'll dip our toes more into some anime.
Yeah. But as in next episode to get a start on that. This one does have like really interesting production history. I don't know how much you are familiar with the production history.
Not at all. This was one that I had to work on some ancillary projects for at Disney, and I think around this time they already had the Toy Story ride where you got to like shoot the
Toy Story Mania.
Yeah, Toy Story Mania. And that was the ride that I was going to the most. When I would have to take a break from work, I would pop into the park and I would go to this and I would go to Tower of Terror. But this one, I found all the cheats and the secret codes and everything to get like the high scores. And so, yeah, again, just another personal connection to Toy Story around this time.
Oh, you got to make a Disney Sea. They got Toy Story Mania and the Tower of Terror directly next to each other there.
I don't know if this is still the case, but for anyone that goes on Toy Story Mania, at least the one that was in Hollywood Studios, I believe, or MGM Studios, Hollywood Studios, they call it now. If you shoot the sun the entire time, you can actually beat most of the other scores if you're going for the little rings or doing all the things that you're supposed to shoot at. If you shoot the sun enough, you can beat the normal scores. At least that was for a longest period of time. That was sort of like the secret cheat code.
Oh, okay. See, I've only been on the ride once, and I was by myself in the car because I went with I was the third wheel with a couple, so they of course were in the other one.
Yeah, but your scores, I think, go with everyone that was on that particular ride. So even the people that aren't in your cars.
Okay. What was also funny is when we were going in, there's a little piece of artwork in the queue, it had Woody and Jesse like on one side having a fun time shooting the guns, and then you could kind of see Buzz on the other side looking really depressed or something, like he'd just been cucked by Woody or something. So I thought that was funny.
Well, right, and I guess maybe I just don't remember the Toy Story 2 as much, but Woody and Bo Peep were a thing. But Woody and Jesse weren't necessarily a thing. And in Toy Story 3, Buzz and Jesse become a thing. But
yeah,
in the
that's why the artwork was funny.
I guess so. So like in the park lore, they kind of imply that Woody and Jesse are now a thing and that Buzz is cucked in the real world.
But like you said, it was before this movie. So they made the artwork not thinking of the, of what happened here. So now it's just funny. And but spoiler alert, Bo Peep does show back up in the next movie. So
oh, you monster.
Well, she's like the second lead of it. But yeah, when did you start? What year did you start working for Disney again?
2006.
2006. Because I'm really
2006 to like 2016. It was 10 years.
Okay, then this should be very interesting since you said you were working on ancillary things. If you remember, the last 3 Pixar movies were like that. Pixar, like, we're not sure if we're still part of Disney and we're going to experiment and make these more adult films, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, Disney's also doing this, and they have started something that I think they closed down right about the time you started, called Circle 7 Animation. Have you heard of this?
Not really, but what productions do they do? Because I know that the animation studio that I was working out of, they had done a bunch of other like not seemingly Disney. For example, one of the productions was the Adam Sandler Hanukkah movie.
Okay, this is something different. Circle 7 Animation never actually put out anything. They were
Interesting.
formed in 2004 when Michael Eisner is butting heads with Steve Jobs, right? So it really looks like Pixar's not there anymore. Disney still has the rights to everything up to Cars, though. Everything up to and including Cars. So like we can make Toy Story 3, we can make A Bug's Life 2, we can make Finding Nemo 2, we can make Cars 2. So there's like an alternate development for 2 years of Toy Story 3. I'm looking at a bit of art here where it shows a bunch of recalled Buzz Lightyear. So once 2 years later, Pixar is back in, and I think they basically let these animators just kind of go. You know, it's not like they were doing something bad, so they were allowed to be back in the fold or whatever. But that's kind of why I was curious if some of these people were like kind of coming through right as you were starting or something.
I'm pretty sure almost all of this type of animation though was all happening on the West Coast because the whole time that I was at Disney, the animation building was almost just a shell of its former self. In fact, I think they used large portions of it for storage, which is a little bit sad to hear. But yeah, there was not almost all the animation happening on the East Coast was internal for inside corporate events and a lot of the attractions and stuff. A lot of like the Imagineering fall off work.
This takes over. This is interesting. I'm looking at Circle 7's page, and it says the predecessor was Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida, but the headquarters is Glendale, California. So this might be when they moved it over.
Yeah, there was a major shift that happened right before I started in the backlot production, and mainly what happened. The boring part, I'll make it really quick, but like the taxes. There used to be really great tax breaks in Florida. Then they got new politicians in and they cut those tax breaks. And that was the death knell. They had so many shows that they were still shooting. The same exact thing happened with Nickelodeon studio at Universal Studios, the Nickelodeon headquarters. They were shooting a handful of actual shows there. They were doing like Closer Explains It All. They were doing some kind of Double Dare knockoffs with Mark Summers. And then as soon as that same thing happened, all of the productions in Disney stopped, all the productions in Universal Studios stopped, and they never came back after that. This was late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, and I think I always went to parks before that. Like I haven't been to Universal Studios since like 1995, I think.
Oh, you went in the heyday then. You went when you could still get slimed and go through and do the whole tour and everything.
Oh yeah, I got Kong's.
I think is completely shut down now.
I got Kong's Banana Breath. Yeah, it was a Blue Man Group for a while, I think. Yeah, Kong's Banana Breath, the Earthquake Ride, these little Jaws, Back to the Future, all that stuff was rolling. So anyway, for Toy Story 3, that's the first one they want to do a Circle 7 animation, right? And this sentence sounds like bad news. Bradley Raymond, who previously directed Disney's direct-to-video sequels such as The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 and The Lion King 1.5, was hired to direct the film, which, I mean, nothing against the guy, but that's not like a great pedigree if you're launching a studio. They were considering a script from the Teacher's Pets screenwriters. That's kind of interesting, where they're going to have Andy and his toys paying a visit to his grandmother's house, and then the toys are like being stolen one by one, and it's like a murder mystery. So
that sounds awesome.
That was rejected. Disney sat on it for a fourth movie, which I guess was still going to be the Circle 7 thing. So they liked it, but they're like, we don't want to do that. I guess they didn't think that'd be a good kickoff movie,
Fair point.
The Meet the Parent screenwriter Jim Hertzfeld wrote the script they were going to use, which this one always has fascinated me because this one doesn't sound bad. And I'll just read it direct here. It focused on Andy's toys shipping a malfunctioning Buzz to the factory in Taiwan where he was built, with the other toys hoping he'll be fixed there. While searching on the internet, they discover that many more Buzz Lightyear toys are malfunctioning around the world, and the company has issued a massive recall. Fearing Buzz's destruction, a group of Andy's toys all ship themselves to Taiwan and venture out to rescue Buzz. And when they get there, the new toys that you meet in this Toy Story 3 are all the other recalled toys that are in this T&E's factory. I mean, I think the movie we got, I don't know, that's less emotionally manipulative, I get. But the one we got, I guess, is probably better. Once Pixar comes in,
3 is also more China friendly, I believe, than what you just described. That one sounds like it might not have gotten the Chinese market.
True, because they really started printing money with Toy Story 3, the one that was released. But then again, I have, this is the Disney that was putting out Chicken Little and Meet the Robinsons. So I don't have like high faith in this version of Toy Story 3 with a new production company. It's a little bit like, I don't know about that. When the Pixar guys came back, they actually didn't use any of this Circle 7 stuff. They were like, let's start from scratch just because we don't want to be influenced by these other ideas. We want to have our own ideas.
Yeah, that is honestly so classic Disney, where someone new is in charge and it's just like, scrap everything that you've been working on because this needs to have my DNA from start to finish.
Well, to be fair, these are the people that made the first 2 movies. So I think they can claim some ownership to this. Let's see. Just other interesting production things as I'm looking here. All of their 3D models were corrupted. Like they could still find the file, but they couldn't modify the file anymore. So everything was built from scratch for this movie. I mean, it had been 11 years since Toy Story 2, so that makes sense.
You mean they went to go and open the models from Toy Story 2 and reuse them, and they had all been corrupted and there was no backups?
Says error messages prevented them from editing the files. So I guess that's corrupted. I don't know. Oh, and here the film's art director Daisuke Tsutsumi is married to Hayao Miyazaki's niece, which is why we're seeing Totoro in this movie. If you're curious, because that's some IP that Ghibli, they hold close to their chest. It's kind of surprising that Totoro shows up in this movie.
Nice little Easter egg, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic one. But that's the most interesting production thing here, though, that there were like multiple alternate versions of this movie from a completely different group of people than what we got in the end. So, and that was what Disney was going to do. They were about to do like those direct-to-video sequels with all of Pixar, which would have, I guess, crapped the bed on that, all of the Toy Story IP and all that sort of stuff.
Man, when we watched Toy Story 2, I really liked the intro to it because it starts out and you're in a video game, right? It's Buzz Lightyear and he's fighting some space monster and then he dies and then you realize it was just a game. And on this one, it starts out with Woody chasing down a train and there's like this dastardly Mr. Potato Head who puts dynamite on the tracks, which by the way is one of my favorite like American cinema motifs, is this dastardly villain that's going to blow up. And I think this goes back to as far as the railroads go back. There was a movie called Under the Gaslight in the 1850s that hit on this. And then there was a serial called Perils of Pauline, which was basically the premise over and over. And this is where then you get not Snidely Whiplash, but there was the villain from Bullwinkle, not Boris, but there was another guy that was always like twirling his mustache and tying people down to the train tracks.
Dastardly, is that a name? No, that's
Is it Dick Dastardly?
Maybe he's the racist guy. I think he might be Wacky Races. I don't know.
It was, well, no, Wacky Races, I think, is Snidely Whiplash. It was whoever was opposite the Canadian Mountie. I didn't expect to go into this avenue, by the way. But anyways, that original motif is one of my favorite in cartoons and movies and anything. And it starts out in this one. And it's because of how Toy Story 2 started as a game. All I can think of was like, oh my God, how cool would it be if there was a Toy Story Woody themed Red Dead Redemption open world where you get to do everything you can think of in Red Dead Redemption, but it's Woody and it's like Toy Story and you can go through. And honestly, this seems like the cooler timeline. We got stuck with the crappy timeline where Disney just makes these live action remakes and like Snow Woke and all the weird bombs that we've seen over the last couple decades. But there has to be, in the infinite sets of timelines, there's a reality where someone's in a dimension out there where they got GTA Toy Story right off the bat and they didn't have to go through all the crap that we're going through.
Ooh, GTA Toy Story.
For
Now,
GTA cars, right?
Yeah.
Like you could make the coolest open world Disney game where you can be Woody and play it like it was Red Dead. You can be any of the Cars characters and play it like it was GTA. Like there's so many opportunities there.
I said the most horrible idea when you said that because I was like, oh yeah, you'd get in the car and it'd have eyes and stuff. I was like, wait a minute, the cars are the characters. So the cars would need to rip open people and get inside of them.
Okay, I don't know how that would work physically. Yeah.
I was like, what's the opposite? I was like, and that's the first thing that came to mind for some reason. The beginning of this movie, I always have flashbacks to Back to the Future 3's climax, I guess. Which again, that doesn't have a mustache twirling villain. Well, it has old whatever Biff is in that, but he's already been punched out by that point in the movie, so he's not there anymore.
Right, and the train motif, and just to throw out here too, and this is in the first 3 minutes of the movie. I had so many notes as soon as it started. It's not just any train, it's a freaking orphan train. And I don't know how far down the orphan train conspiracy rabbit hole you've gone. Is this even familiar to you, the orphan trains?
Mud flood?
Well, there's so many variations of, yes.
Maybe that's the way I heard it. I know what you're talking about, though, yeah.
Short answer, yes. And just as a summary for anyone that's like, what the heck's an orphan train? And there's a bunch of them. There was also orphan trains, I believe, in World War II, but there was a specific American version of the orphan trains between 1854 and 1929. There was an estimated 200,000 children that were sent from crowded East Coast cities out to rural families in the Midwest. And the intent here, the official storyline was to rescue these poor, abandoned orphan kids and put them with good old Christian farm families. But this is where all the different conspiracy theories come from. There is the orphans were actually stolen conspiracy theory, where they come from these immigrant families or single mothers or poor households, and they just get snatched up by the state. There is a mass population engineering version where they're trying to dilute these cultural family lines and send them out to white people out in the Midwest just to kind of like put a little cream in everything, right? Just to make everything a little bit more ubiquitous. There is also a cover story for missing kids where kids were getting snatched up and exploited and who knows what's happening to them. So they run this orphan train narrative just to kind of cover up the tracks of this actual trafficking network. And then there's the one that you just mentioned, which is this big reset to what they call foundling hospitals and reset theories. And this is where orphans were usually displaced children of these lost civilizations like Tartaria, like, all the other ones that you can fill in the blank. And from this worldwide cataclysm, and the only way that they could either not just kill them all off was to say that they were these orphans from the city. So I just thought that was wild that it could have been any kind of train, but then all of a sudden all these trolls pop out and they're like, we're orphans, which makes it literally an orphan train, right? I mean, I wasn't even trying to look into that.
I mean, Canada did it in reverse, right? Didn't they send all the First Nation kids from like Pacific Northwest and stuff off to the east to be in boarding schools?
Which was actually MK Ultra funded. If you look into that, like 100% MK Ultra funding went into that. That's a wild story.
Yeah, it's like get all the native out of them kids is what seemed to be the thing there, which that's pretty culture destroying, which sucks, but that's what happens.
It's kind of what we do. It's kind of our thing.
How I did once we get to the jump to 2010. I guess it's supposed to be 2010. I was thinking this is like late stage Manson family. Manson's choice, of course, is to start telling his increasingly despondent minions to go kill in that case, because that was kind of the thing when you read about that. It was sex, drugs, and happiness. What in 67? It's starting to atrophy by 69. So what do we do next? That's and Woody kind of is a cult leader, so I really had that running through my mind.
But what Woody's missing is that he doesn't have any artistic endeavors to disappoint the world with, which seems to be the key catalyst to create a true madman. I mean, Hitler and Manson are only two examples of that, But if someone had just fostered their creativity, who knows what they might have accomplished? So yeah, Manson, as soon as he realizes he's not going to cut it in the music entertainment industry, he snaps and then just like, okay, fine, MK Ultra, do what you need with me. Jolly West, I'm yours for the taking.
Yeah, I guess Woody's more of a religious zealot, as we mentioned in the previous movie. So that's a slightly different strain of cult leader.
Woody could be Mormon. I'm just throwing that out there. He has all the qualities that you would expect from Mormon, although he never states what his religion is.
Maybe the factory that made the Woodies was in Salt Lake City, and by having the factory located in there, you are automatically Mormon.
I feel like they've left the door open. At any point, we could have a Woody is Mormon backstory, and it could
on the
be
way.
Like cohesive.
5 coming out next year. We'll see.
Right.
Yeah. I was judging Andy's teenage guitar. Which I was like, that's not even a Squire, man. That's a knockoff.
That's not a Japanese 12-string Fender. What even is this?
Japanese 12? What are you even doing, man? No, I played in a band and in our teens, and we were all playing like absolute garbage guitars. Whatever. I can't be judgmental.
I had a PV Raptor, which I learned way after the fact that was looked down upon by anyone that cared.
Yep, BC Rich Mockingbird bass, I think, when I was like 13 and 14, which, and I don't think it was an American-made one either, so it was absolute garbage. Then we got an Epiphone Les Paul bass, which wasn't set up right, and played that. I didn't play a proper bass till I was like 25. But I did most of my gigging before that, so whatever. Interesting.
And my 2 favorite albums were both recorded in a bathroom on subpar microphones. So I mean, it's at a certain point, it's no longer about music; it's about something else. This might be the Toy Story 3 programming coming out a little bit, where you are so obsessed with your material possessions that they're getting in your own way of progress.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, hey, midlife crisis, bunch of guitars. That makes sense. I mean, there's worse things I guess you could do with a midlife crisis. I recently watched American Beauty again for you could do that. Kevin Spacey's real midlife
crisis. Would you consider the Tate murders midlife crisis?
He was 35 at the time. He needed a few more years. He was just crazy Charlie, programmed. Did you ever see the Ben Stiller show sketch Manson, where it's made to look like a lassie, but now Manson is in the lassie role?
No, I haven't. What is this from? Is it a full show or just a skit?
It's from a sketch. It's from a sketch. The Ben Stiller show, and you get it's Bob Odenkirk playing Charles Manson, and it's one of the best things ever. Just he's got lines like, "I got the eye of the tiger, and I don't know who to kill first." When Charlie's the cook, we'll have brain stew for dinner. So I'll get that your way. That's one of my favorite sketch comedy bits ever.
I'll have to go and get all the Stiller episodes. I don't think I've actually watched all those through.
Yeah, they put out the DVD set like 20 years ago, and I poured through that. The Dana Carvey show, I was getting all those forlorn 90s sketch shows from pretty good comedians, right? So Dana Carvey show, another big hit on that list. Sid as well. Do we assume Sid is the garbage man, and that he's just maybe a year or two older than Andy and gainfully employed with the city now?
Maybe. Is he the truck driver at the end that takes the bear, or is he just working?
No, that guy was older. That guy was, he had some dude energy. But Sid, I think, was the one that comes by Andy's house to pick up the trash. That's really dump on Sid,
man. I mean, pun not intended. They really dump on him because, again, he's the one that is satisfied with trademarked, like official toys. He's the one that can take and make his own toys and had fun with them, which is the ultimate villain in the Toy Story universe, right?
Yeah. Well, he's got health insurance probably. Maybe after his garbage man job, he goes and plays in like a goth death metal band at night,
Right. He's got like an outfit made out of just severed doll heads.
Yes.
On brand for Sid.
Absolutely. I mean, he's probably doing something I'd like to think he's doing something artistic. He's gainfully employed. Sometimes the job is to fuel other things, isn't it?
I'm wondering,
Usually.
The Toy Story universe seems to be compatible with the Child's Play universe. So it's just the matter that in the Child's Play universe, that isn't his name Andy too, or am I mixing that up? In the Child's Play universe, it's just it's like the spirit of a murderer, but he could have gotten Woody.
Yeah. So yeah, and we know some toys are evil. I mean, Lotso is not redeemed at the end of this, right? Lotso is through and through despicable till the end. That's why it's fine that he's with the weird Muppety toys on a grill eating bugs at the end, right?
And by the way, his name is Andy. I had to look it up. The Child's Play, the kid's name is also Andy. I wonder if that was intentional. I have to assume it was.
Yeah, we've had the My Buddy discussion before, haven't we? So we don't need to get into that. One thing about Lotso, I'm a hugger. I'm definitely not a hugger. That's why I like living in Japan. Nobody ever hugs. Even when you meet family, nobody goes around hugging each other. So,
well, that's his literal name. It's Lotso
Hug and Bear. Yeah. That's where John Lasseter has his more recent nickname, right? Lotso Hug and Lasseter. Yep.
Also, another Kevin Spacey reference, I assume.
Maybe.
I'm a toucher feeler.
Here's something, because we did talk about it some in Toy Story 2, and even before things go wrong, just when they're up in the attic, Jessie is like fully like disassociating again, Or I guess when they're in the box or going back to anyway, she's just Jessie, like the first sign that things are going wrong, she's like, having a complete trauma reaction.
Well, Jessie has seen all the potential. Like she almost got sent to Japan originally, right? They get snatched up by the Collector, and Jessie turns into sort of the main protagonist in that entire ordeal. Woody kind of checks out, and she takes over the lead role in a way. And then now in this movie, I think she's going to be traumatized from that, and Woody is back in his sort of cult leader role. I can't not call him a cult leader because you said it.
Yeah, but it's just a late stage cult, which is a forlorn feeling, I guess.
This is Heaven's Gate. After
I was gonna say, Woody's about to say, "Let's
lost his wife." Yeah,
I was literally about to say Heaven's Gate.
This is like right before they start mixing the Kool-Aid and the Flavor Aid with the cyanide in Guyana, Jonestown, where they're like, all right, this is end times. This is the only way out, because Woody is clearly telling everyone, all right, like we're headed to the attic. This is the end of the line. If Andy wants us in the attic, then we're going to go to the attic and just sit there forever if that's what he wants. And he's convincing everyone else to do this. And the only ones that decide to bail are the army guys. They're like, we're out of here. And they just take off.
That is funny. They're such fair weather friends. Then they show up again at the end at the preschool, because now things are cool and groovy again, as Ken says.
Is it fair weather friends? Because I mean, he is moving on, and they are going to go into the attic.
Well, in the Woody caught vibe, it's not right. I'm actually looking when Ermy died. Lee Ermy died, and I'm guessing maybe he just wasn't. He lived till 2018. I guess he just didn't want to have anything to do with this movie. Ermy out.
What was his role? Yeah, what was his role again?
He was the army commander voice, and he's the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. So that's the army men just going out. I think it's kind of like how in the next movie, Rickles dies before the next movie. So everything that Mr. Potato Head says in Toy Story 4 is just like outtakes. I think it's outtakes from Toy Story Mania, actually.
Oh, nice. They South Park chefed them.
Yeah. So he's still kind of there, but I'm assuming. I feel like 5. Well, I was looking at the wiki before, when I was doing my research for this podcast, and 5, there's not much on it, but the only confirmed cast members are Tim Allen and Tom Hanks and somebody else in a new role, somebody relatively famous. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that didn't like list like 10 voice actors playing like your regular toys, and I'm wondering if they're going to just like try and find a way to do this without needing 15 celebrities every time.
It would be such a weird train wreck, but I would absolutely love to see a live action Toy Story starring Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, like opposite each other. They can CGI that stuff, but yeah, I want to know that they were like sharing the same energy.
No CGI, no mocap. They have to be in the costumes. It needs to be on film, not even digital cameras.
One set, no cuts, all just like Broadway style.
Yeah. We need to see how old they are. I will maintain that I liked Captain America: Brave New World because I just wanted to see a very old Harrison Ford turn to a hawk. Did it happen too late in the movie? Probably, but it still happened, and that's all I wanted from the movie, and it gave me that. So. Set your expectations low and you can be very happy.
So
that's bad.
Speaking of members of this cast members of this movie dying, they also imply, I mean, spoiler alert, you already said that Bo Peep comes back in the next one, but Woody does make this statement early on when he's talking to his cult about we've lost many friends along the way, and then he follows it up with like some have gone on to new owners, but the way that he says it is as if like Etch-a-Sketch is one of the examples. Like, what actually had this Etch come back in Toy Story 4? Do you know?
I can't remember. Yeah. Because, again, they have to they still have some of the Toy Story 3 toys around. And then they have a whole new set of toys in 4. So 4 just has such a ridiculous amount of characters. That's where I'm like wondering if 5, they're like, hit the brakes. We'll see. Maybe they'll go more nuts, but...
It just at some point it just turns into Wall-E. Everyone is just at the garbage dump because the world is the garbage dump.
Yeah. Of course, I did have to replace Jim Varney as Slinky Dog because he died like right after they did Toy Story 2. I'm not even sure if he was still living for the release of that movie. So
I'm not sure if Slinky Dog even has a line in this movie. We see a cameo, but I think that he's just there.
Oh, he's got a line which I might have written down. No, I didn't. He's got I got a little kink in my slink or something when he's trying to get them across the dumpster. So he's got a couple lines. Yeah. Oh, this is a new voice actor, isn't it? So, yeah, they don't focus too much on Slinky Dog. He probably has about 4 lines, but he had at least one. I got a kink in my slink, so I do remember that.
About this Woody cult leader thing, I just some sort of existential questions, right? If Andy wants us in an attic, we'll be there for him. This is that undying, like, I don't care what the rest of the world looks like. I'm going to follow and see my purpose through. But there are toys that reject that premise. For example, the military guys that jump out the window, right? So is this toys rejecting Andy? Is this toys rejecting their God? Is this represent God versus God's creations, or is this more like a parental dynamic where Andy's the parent and the toys are his children? And either way, is it okay for that superior being to abandon these lower beings that are clearly attached to him?
You haven't seen Toy Story 4 yet, is that correct?
I don't know if I have. I don't remember it as much as Toy Story 3.
Somebody had that in the back of their mind when they're making that movie. Because
we get some of the answers of that.
They actually they're thinking about your question, is what I'm saying. I mean, maybe not quite as demiurgy as the way you just said it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned that, and maybe I'll leave some of this when we do Toy Story 4. But the only other thing I was thinking of is there's the concept of like deism, like classic American founder deism, and this is that God is almost like a clockmaker, and he made the clock and now he's done with the clock and he walks away, and we just operate on this natural law that's inherent in our physical reality, and we have not even like a loving or even an evil God, just one that is gone now. He's moved on to something else, and we've been left to our own devices. So there's like this deist approach where Andy, right, if he's the God in this case, he just walks away and leaves. He just goes to college. They're in the attic, almost brave little toaster style, right? Like the gods are dead, the gods are gone, and they're just trying to figure that out. Or is it a form of Gnosticism
where that's right about to go? I was gonna say that's the toy bardo you're passing through there, right? As a toy, you've died one life, and now you're in another life, and the only way to escape is in the blazing inferno of the of the dump yard.
You have to go through an actual transformation, an alchemical transformation through the fire.
Right. Otherwise, you just got a new owner. I mean, hey, in the past, yesterday, I'm walking into the train station, and it's not like a full size figure, but it's like a little, like a little plush thing that you would put on a bag, and there's a Woody right there. I could have picked up the Woody, and it was a nice clean one. Yeah, owner's gonna come by. 3 days ago, same thing. I was walking by. There's Kuromi. Do you know Kuromi?
I don't.
That's the Sanrio character. It's a Sanrio character. No, she's the little devil Sanrio character. And there's a little Kuromi. I like Kuromi. I was like, someone's coming by for it. We'll let that happen. It's the beginning of the school year in Japan. Kids are putting things on bags. They're falling off. I assume that's what's happening.
Right. And of course, it would be a Westerner that's like, oh, that's mine now.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, the thought went through my mind, didn't it? But I was like, someone's probably coming.
I've heard those stories that Japan's a place. I don't know how true this is, but like Japan's a place where you can accidentally leave your wallet on like a park bench or like a restaurant table and come back 2 hours later, and it might still be there.
That is correct.
Unless Matt's walking by and he's like, "Oh, a Woody."
I left the Woody. What have I? What have I picked up on? I thought about it. It crossed my mind. It was clean. It wasn't like dirty, right? Like, I mean, again, end of this movie, they've been in the junkyard. They get slightly hosed off. I'm like, they still smell like feces. A little hosing down's not going to do anything. Andy is giving Bonnie a toy, a box that smells like shit. That smell ain't coming off anytime soon. I think. I don't know. I think about smells a lot when I watch movies. So.
Well, especially little kids' toys do have a certain O-Day little kid to them.
Yeah, the caterpillar room smells funky, I'm sure. I have had as a teacher for years, and this happened just yesterday where it's like, do I smell funny? I'm like, wait a minute, there's 5 kids in this room and they're wearing socks. It's probably not me.
You say I guess moving along, you say the caterpillar room. Let me do a quick synopsis of the movie, just so some of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Andy grows up in this movie. He goes from 7 to 17, roughly. And the mom comes in, he's going off to college, and she basically says, some of your toys are getting donated, some are going into the attic, or if you want to bring some to college with you, and the rest of them are going into the garbage. So Andy puts all of your favorite IP characters into this bag, and he's going to bring them up into the attic, but he gets distracted at the last second, and instead of bringing the bag of toys up into the attic, he leaves it on the ground, and then the mom comes around, trips over the bag, and thinks, oh, they're this black bag, I guess this is garbage, brings them to the garbage. So the whole entire premise is that all of Andy's toys and all of these characters that we've fallen in love with over the last 2 movies are now going to be incinerated, and there's like this ticking time dynamic that we need to save them and get, not only so they don't die, but so we can put them back in Andy's possession and he'll know what to do with them. And through the course of that movie, what actually happens is that a bunch of them escape and get donated to a preschool or like some kind of a daycare center called Sunnyside Daycare, and the caterpillar room is for the toddlers, is for the youngest of the people. And whoever is in this caterpillar room with the toddlers are just getting abused immediately. The kids run in, they're smashing the toys together, they're licking and biting and eating the toys. They're doing all sorts of horrible, like this is basically like an Aztec sacrificial ceremony, right? For the toy equivalent. So this is seen as the worst possible outcome. And I almost wonder, does this mean they would rather just be incinerated than be stuck in this caterpillar room for eternity? And what happens is that the caterpillar room turns out to be a hazing ritual. This is where all of the new initiates into this daycare center, Sunnyside, which might be sun worship, who knows? But anyone that gets initiated into this new mystery school, they have to go through this hazing ritual until the next wave of initiation toys come through, and then they go through the caterpillar room. So that it's a very specific hazing ritual motif that the movie picks up on right around the halfway point all the way until the end. Finally, they do get restored back to Andy, but then Andy brings them to some girl that lives down the street, and she gets to play with them. And that's kind of the entire movie. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, but what happens when she goes to college? They just go, this is just the same repeating story over and over and over again for these toys.
Toy Story 4 will not address that. They do not time jump much for that one, just in case you're wondering. Molly's still like, 5 or whatever.
Bonnie, I want to see Molly go to college. Maybe that could be Toy Story 4.
Bonnie, yeah. Get her name right. But where were we? We're in the caterpillar, the human centipede room.
You brought up the caterpillar room, and the caterpillar room again. This is the hazing ritual. This is the thing that that all the toys are trying to escape from. And at the end of the movie, I guess it's sort of weird. Like, once they've established that this caterpillar room exists, and this is where toys go to get abused and tortured, that still happens. They just spread it around a little bit more. Now, instead of the new wave, the new initiates having to deal with the caterpillar room, by the end of the movie, everyone has to deal with it. They're almost playing tag team, where one of the toys gets viciously abused and smashed against the ground, and he rolls under a dresser, and he sort of like high fives. He does like a wrestling tap on his partner, and then the partner comes out, and then they abuse that guy. I'm just wondering, this doesn't sound like a favorable solution at all. Like, they didn't solve the problem that their normal waking life is just being abused nonstop because humans bad in this iteration of Disney morality.
And I would notice if the toys, as a person or a teacher, if the toys were just randomly shifting from room to room. I think I noticed that. Why is it in here today? What? Huh? Actually, the Cookie Monster I don't use him much with kids anymore.
Oh, I got it alive.
The main reason is because he's got these ping pong ball eyes, and the first thing kids do are like go for the eyes, right? I'm like, stop that! Don't break the Cookie Monster, because of course they want to punch him in the face and stuff, because of course they do.
Well, it's a puppet. There's something inherent in any normal person when they see a puppet. You do want to punch it for some reason. And I don't know if they address this in Toy Story 4. If they do, let me know. But I'm just wondering, like, what is the rule here? Because Andy doesn't want to part with his toys, but he realizes that he's growing up and he needs to give them to someone that's going to appreciate them more. I guess that's like the on the surface story. And Woody and the rest of the toys, they don't want to give up Andy. Hell, if anything, Woody wants to be ride or die with Andy until Andy is, old and dead, right? He wants to be his best friend forever and ever and ever. And it would solve all the problems that everyone in this entire series has if Woody can just be like, hey, Andy, I can talk. Hey, Andy, like I have my own soul and I can move around and I've got some sort of autonomy to me. Now, all of a sudden, Andy wouldn't be a freak that's refusing to grow up because he's keeping his toys, because his toys are freaking special, right? And the toys don't have to worry about getting thrown out because they are inherently special. So what is it that makes it so they cannot be seen talking in front of these humans? Is it like a magical switch?
I think there's some stuff in that about that in 4. That's not what I took away. And I guess I'll just throw out a little bit of 4 because we're getting into it. So if you really don't want to be spoiled, hit the 30-second button, once or twice ahead. But basically, it's like a little bit in the future. And Woody is not Bonnie's favorite toy, like not even close. He spends most of his time in the closet. And he gets separated again. There's a pawn shop. I've only seen this movie once, but basically what he learns from Bo Peep is like, you don't need an owner. You just go out and live your life as a toy.
Maybe it's a story about him breaking his heterosexuality.
Maybe, but at least getting out of his religious zealotry. Like, that's Toy Story 4, is him getting out of this zealot view of having an owner, basically because his new owner doesn't like him as much. He's now just like a worker drone toy, basically, right? Because of
the gender norms have switched, because now he's owned by Bonnie, and Bonnie doesn't want him.
Toys. Cowboy's not going to be not going to be a girl's favorite. She's going to like Jesse a little better, possibly.
So he gets stuck in the closet and finds his way out of the closet.
Yeah, he finds his way out of the closet. Okay, sorry. That was the part I was not connecting with, but you could say that. But yeah, that's Bo Peep like he's like Bo Peep, and you'd learn what happened to her, like being. I again forgot the details, but Bo Peep never got a new owner. She's been off on her own, Bo Peeping around. So whatever that means.
I've got a couple other questions here. Just random ones that popped up throughout the movie. If you piss off your toys, will they retaliate? If you piss off the Toy Story crew, will they retaliate? Because they
retaliated against Sid in the first movie.
Right. Well, I'm talking about Andy here, because there is a certain point where you can almost hear resentment when they're like, how dare he throw us away? How can he just cast us out? And Woody has to sort of back them down. Like, no, guys, Andy would never do that. Andy's our best friend. But if Woody wasn't there to chill them out a little bit, does this turn into Small Soldiers or Puppet Master?
Maybe. I mean, that's what happened. If Lotso is pretty pissed at his old owner, which he took a different tact, but he could have gone Puppet Master on his old owner, I suppose.
And I mean, they are clearly capable of setting a fire or setting up some sort of horrible mortal trap, right? For humans, it seems like they are more than capable of killing someone. In fact, we saw that in Toy Story 2. There was an example where they could have killed somebody.
Yeah. So this world is dangerous, I mean, that once we get to the world of cars, no more humans. It's all cars now, Maybe cars are like the toys.
Okay, here's another question. Does Mr. Potato Head even need a body? Because
I was going to say, I have a note here. How much are we going to talk about Potato Head metaphysics?
Right. Well, ship of Theseus, right? But in this case, if you just take the sensory inputs of Mr. Potato Head, you can put them anywhere and he continues to be Mr. Potato Head. He can, because in this movie, he turns into a zucchini, I think, where now all of his ears and his eyes and his mouth and his feet and his hands are stuck into a zucchini, and he can walk around, and it doesn't seem like he's missing any faculties. So what is the body part? Yeah, I guess we are getting into the physics of Mr. Potato Head.
Where is Mr. Potato Head's brain? And Mrs. Potato Head has that all see an eye thing going on, right? So because her eye's back at Andy's house, so that's how they're keeping eye on if Andy's left for college yet or not, right?
Right, there's a potato eyes sort of link here too, which they played on that in the first one, I think.
But it seemed like she didn't realize she could do that because she's just like, oh, I can suddenly see, Yeah,
there's like a ghost of Andy walking by when they're not anywhere near that, and she realizes that she can just put her eye anywhere. So in a way, she's kind of like the monkey at the Sunnyside Daycare, because they have that creepy monkey that like claps the little symbols in front, and he just sits in front of a bunch of cameras or in a bunch of like CCTV room watching the cameras all over the place. I mean, the Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head could play that exact same role here.
Right, but a big difference is the monkey is using pure technology, other than the basic toy magic that they're all alive in the first place. But the monkey's using technology, whereas the Potato Heads have some kind of like metaphysical power, superpower,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and what is that? What is that, like soul? And does that mean that the body of Mr. Potato Head does not contain any of the soul, and it's all in the eyes and the nose and the mouth? And I just wonder at what point, because Miss Potato Head can be without one of her eyes, right? So could you take away one of everything? And then we've seen some examples where there's no nose and no mouth, and they continue to exist. Like if you take away Mr. Potato Head's mouth, does he ever starve? Does any of that work out?
Does Mr. Potato Head eat?
What does a potato eat?
Yeah. I mean, they grow those weird things out of them. I mean, the real potatoes, not Mr. Potato Head, but they got to be eating something. Are those roots?
I realize these are maybe rhetorical questions that don't have solid answers. One question that maybe has a solid answer. What is the actual moral of Toy Story 3? What are you walking away with learning or understanding about yourself or the world?
Don't destroy your stuff. Keep all your stuff and pass it to someone else. I mean, I was pack racking somewhat before this movie came out, to be fair, but but yeah.
In my mind, the moral of the story is be a pack rat. Don't throw out your things that you have some sort of an obligation to your material possessions, because there is either a God to like a creator to created relationship, or at the very least there's a parent to child relationship. And really, that's what I think is the most insidious of all Disney programming. It's more than, like I've said a few other times, it's worse than Dick Castles. It's worse than all teenagers take off your clothes in Aladdin if someone whispers that. It's more insidious than having to freeze a frame on a laser disc to see a nipple in the Rescuers, right? It's more insidious than any of those things. This is literally teaching your children that you can't throw away your toys and that your toys love you and that you should love your toys back because they're actual souls and they feel despair and they feel abandonment and they feel terror and ultimately they feel pain if they get incinerated or crushed in some kind of a garbage dump. I can't imagine what that would have done to me as a kid because, again, I famously thought the Guess Who pieces talked. So if you told me that my toys had souls all the way up until 6 or 7, I probably would have fallen for that.
Yeah, sure. Like, I guess for me, like, I was already in the habit of like keeping dumb stuff when this movie came out. So it was like, stay the course. Of course, I moved to Japan, and I did send a fair amount of stuff over here, but I certainly jettisoned quite a bit of stuff as well. So.
I mean, I'm giving you more credit than you deserve, but I'm imagining that it's more of a, like, I've collected this stuff and I like it and it reminds me of a cool time versus there is a soul inside of this material possession. And if I get rid of it, it will suffer, that I am directly responsible for something else suffering in the world.
I mean, I've kind of turned my room into my own personal Tower Records because we still have them in Japan, but they're mostly depressing. I went into the one in Ikebukuro, which is one of the major centers of Tokyo a few weeks ago. And it was, I think I mentioned, it was just like barely anything there. And I was like, this is a bummer because Tower always used to be the place you go to and they just, you'd have a full library of music. So now my room's just stuffed with a full library of music and movies, and I can just discover things in my room like I used to at a Tower Records, And that's how my brain works. I think when I was 6 or 7, I tried to turn my room into a museum for my parents, and I'd try and like schedule television days using VHS tapes.
Like, we own this room, Matt. We don't need you to turn it into anything. This is our house.
Right. But I turn it into a museum. I make little signs and stuff, right? So, I mean, unfortunately, that the bad lesson in this movie might be somewhat baked into my personality anyway. And then with my daughter, it didn't take. She'll throw away stuff. So, yeah, it didn't program the kid. And I was like, hey, yeah, sure. I don't feel so bad about this anymore.
Well, there's actually a quote from Lotso Bear in here. And Lotso says, "We're all just trash waiting to be thrown away. That's all a toy is." And at a deep level, man, let's ignore the fact that they're obviously drawing a metaphor for like, we're all just born to die, man. But if you take it at face value that all toys are garbage waiting to be thrown away, it's hard to argue against that unless we're talking about some crazy rare thing like Woody, I guess would be Woody and Jesse and the horse, because they're part of this rare set and someone's willing to pay money and they'll put it in a museum somewhere. But aside from that, the Etch-a-Sketch and the Slinky dog and all of the other, like even the Buzz Lightyear, right? This mass-produced Buzz Lightyear, aren't they truly garbage just waiting to be thrown away at some point? Isn't that really what they are, like, without getting deep on it?
Well, we're all worm feed in the end. Actually, the toys aren't. We are.
Of course. But I mean, let's ignore the human metaphor and let's just look at like a Buzz Lightyear toy. Is that not garbage waiting to be thrown away at some point? Or like a Ninja Turtles action figure?
Yeah, what happened to my Ninja Turtles action figures? I don't know.
I've got one. I was all the way up until I was probably 7 or 8, and I was playing with these things. I was probably worse than the sunny side daycare center with toddlers. Like I'll find old action figures, and my parents will send them to me, and they are just absolutely demolished. One of them was like filled with toothpaste or something from like 20 years ago. There's like little melt marks on them. I think some of them had some run-ins with firecrackers. Like, I guess I would have been the most evil person in the Toy Story universe.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the previous one, but my friend across the street and I, we turned we modified our GI Joes to be X-Men because they didn't make good X-Men toys at the time.
I don't know if I mentioned this one before either, but like also just being mean to toys. Hopefully that's not a marker for being a psychopath. Like it's not the same as torturing animals, but torturing toys was one of the funniest things ever. One of my earliest memories was that my next door neighbor and my best friend, he took his cousin's Barbie doll and he just dunked its hair into like an old pot that had like noodle water or something in it. And it was the fun, like I literally laughed so hard that I just started peeing my pants uncontrollably. And I remember my dad was in the house next door. He's on like the third or fourth story, looking out the window, seeing me laughing and peeing my pants. And he like runs outside and he grabs me and brings me inside. But like just the concept that we were being mean to a Barbie doll was just the funnest thing in the world to me. So yeah, I guess like that's worse than Sid. At least Sid is appreciating his toys.
Yeah, I have watched 2 kids pee themselves in the past 2 months. One was too old for, he's like 7 or 8, and he was too scared to ask to go to the bathroom. And then he comes up to the board, and the whole class like, ah, which that's got to be trauma inducing for that kid. But hey, he didn't say anything. For me, it's when I was in the 1st grade and they served fish and Jello at the school lunch, and I hurled in the middle of the cafeteria. Fish and Jello, come on, that's not a combination.
Wait, there was fish inside the Jello?
Oh no! There's fish and there was Jello, but you don't eat them side by side. That's a weird mix, right? I think. Am I wrong?
Honestly, I don't know if you ever eat fish and dessert at the same time. That it seems like you would separate any of those meals regardless.
Anyway, I guess I trauma induced myself because you hurl in the school cafeteria and you're like, yep, fish Jello don't go together.
And they never will now.
They never will. That's correct. Yeah. I mean, I'll eat fish. I don't eat that much Jello though. Yeah.
It's just horse hooves, right? Boiled horse hooves.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have Jello? I mean, we have gelatin in Japan. I don't know if we have Jello in Japan, but I feel like once you're older and 8, you don't really want Jello anyway. Unless you're Bill Cosby.
And then you turn 70 and you want it again.
Yeah, there's the nicest reference that guy's gotten in a while, I guess. He's a Jello guy, yeah. Nothing worse than a preschool toilet. Talking about bad things there. Should any sentient creature have the attic job? See, that's the thing. Woody, that like the toys do have some right to be resentful, you know. There's that scene where Woody will not shake Buzz's hand when they think they're parting forever, which was kind of a dick move on Woody's part. Also, I just rewatched Django Unchained a few nights ago, and I don't know if you remember the handshake refusal in that movie or not.
I don't remember it, but I mean, I remember the whole premise of that movie.
Okay. Anyway, if anyone, the handshake scene in that movie was on my mind when Woody would not shake Buzz's hand. This is
between Leo and Jamie Foxx, right? So who's
no, this is between Leo and Christopher Waltz. Because they do the deal, and Leo's like, yeah, we're in the South. You got to shake my hand before it's a deal. I don't care if we signed it. It ain't a deal till you shake my hand. So then he goes to go shake his hand.
So who's Leo in Toy Story?
Leo would be Buzz, although not like Leo, of course, in that movie is like pure evil. Like I'm just like, it's because I watched it the night before, right? That's on my mind. Just another handshake refusal scene, and that's goes a very different direction.
Well, in this movie, though, they do point out that Buzz is still a danger. At any point, he can be deprogrammed, and his natural state of being is to just kill everyone else around him, right? If you put him back into Buzz Lightyear mode, he's ready to shoot his lasers at you.
Fantastic for comedy, but then again, yeah, once you're thinking about psychology and all that sort of stuff, it's like, yeah, Buzz is pretty broken. He was broken from the start. He was broken in the factory, you know. That's why he had to be recalled, I guess, in the original. That's interesting because the original script does from the other studio has him getting recalled, maybe because all of the Buzzes are flawed in that way. All the Buzzes, maybe there have been incidents where Buzzes killed, you know, like owners they didn't like.
So small soldiers, or I mean. the Charles Manson analogy here, right? That every time Charles Manson would run into some issues, he'd have to go back and see his parole officer at the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, which was being run by Dr. Jolly West under MK Ultra funding. So anytime Charlie would step out of line, they would just reorient him at this clinic. So I think that that's sort of what we're seeing here with Buzz, that Buzz Lightyear, he kind of is the Charles Manson in this case. And I guess we're seeing him after he's been denied his fame through the music industry.
So I pegged Woody all wrong, huh?
Well, no, Woody's Marshallopolite. I think we've got that pretty solid.
Okay. There we go. Worked out. Nice to know. I did notice, and maybe we noticed this in the earlier ones. That's the problem when we did Toy Story 2, like a year and a half ago? I don't remember what we said. But I just noticed that Andy lives on Elm Street, which, as a Freddy Krueger fan, that put a red flag up that.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think there's something there. Again, the Child's Play connection is pretty deep. Now we've got an Elm Street connection. Maybe
that's why these toys are alive, because the kindergarten's not far away. Maybe if you live on Elm Street, there's the toy magic is there. Now,
and in Toy Story 2, didn't he go to camp? Could that have been Crystal Lake?
Ooh, yeah. Toy Story fits right into the horrorverse. Well, hey, we got spinning heads in multiple movies. Doesn't Woody spin his head to Sid, and then Big Baby spins her head here? So lots of Exorcist head spinning, right?
Correct. And if you really want to stretch this, you could even say that
yes, I do.
The truck driver at the end is from what's the Stephen King movie about the
Maximum Overdrive?
Yeah, that's the guy from Maximum Overdrive.
It's gonna scare you.
Maybe even Jeepers Creepers. Who knows?
You've seen the Stephen King narrated trailer for Maximum Overdrive?
No.
Okay, he's coked out of his mind, and I don't remember exactly, but at the end he's like, "I'm gonna scare the hell out of you," and he's just like tweaking or something. It's like, and make sure if you watch, make sure it's not like just the trailer. It's the one that he is talking about the movie. It's one of the classic ones for me, at least. I watch that one regularly. I don't watch the movie regularly. I just watch that trailer regularly. So
that seems preferable Stephen King version.
Yeah. Well, it's a mid-'80s Stephen King, right? So that is most insane. Unless he was in the 70s, I don't know. Totoro's back. Sunnyside got a dark rainbow. Okay. Oh, because it's shown in the thunderstorm, right? So when Lotso is first arriving at Sunnyside in this flashback. But I do like how they make the sign look as foreboding as possible in that scene. That's kind of fun because you were mentioning like sun worship, and there's a complete lack of sun in that scene, and it looks foreboding.
There's also one particular scene that I really liked, and I'm sure there was a version of the script that had this line of dialogue, but they decided not to include it. But they're at the Sunnyside daycare, and everything is sounding great. Oh yeah, kids are gonna love you. They're gonna play with you. It's everything that they want it to be. And then there's this completely silent, calm moment, and you see Woody looking around, and I can almost hear him thinking it's a little too quiet in here. Like that line is kind of lingering, even though no one says it out loud. That's the vibe. And then all the kids come running in, and then you see that clearly that this was not what they wanted. But I don't know, man. I feel like that's such a very picky toy that you're like, I want to be played with. And then they're like, well, not like that. I don't want to be played with like that. I don't know, man. We've seen some versions in Toy Story 1 where Andy was being fairly rough and throwing Buzz through the air and flying. And even in this one, the girl, Bonnie, she puts him on a pillow and like whips him up into the air. And even though they lay him back on the bed, but I mean, they're kind of being rough with this stuff.
But the animation makes it look so idyllic, right? But yeah, like you're saying, Bonnie does that. One toy falls on the floor and like the arm falls off, right? That's
right.
That's normal for playing with stuff.
So I don't know. Yeah, the rules of the Toy Story metaphysics and morality, they're very flexible. It almost seems that intent is most of the law in the Toy Story world. That if you're doing something out of malice, or if you're doing something out of ignorance, like the toddlers, then you can harm them. But if you're doing it on purpose, then you get a pass. It's sort of weird.
I mean, I would say, like as someone that works at the place where we teach kids, the new stuff is probably going to go to the, I guess it's donated, so nothing's really new. Maybe that's why, but I'm like, the newer stuff you'd probably give to the butterfly room first, and then when that gets a little wore down, now you move it over to the caterpillar room. So the caterpillar room should not be a place of initial hazing, but of, rotten death of toys, as we see with the phone. Which I do remember playing with in that room as a kid. The phone, that was a trigger for me. I definitely spent time with that phone as a toddler,
That what you describe is how the world usually works, right? That usually like the nicer, cooler stuff will go to those that can appreciate it, and then once it trickles its way down, it becomes like the ultimate hand-me-downs. Then it goes into the toddlers, and then it's just like waiting for it to break. But that's not how initiation works. I can't even think of a single group that hazes you the longer you've been in it, right? That like once you become a senior citizen, you get hazed more than the new recruits. Every single hazing ritual usually focuses on the newbies coming in. Like, and I have some of the examples. So like the actual hazing rituals is probably older than even human record, right? But there's a couple really famous versions of this. In the ancient Spartans, the military hazing was a state policy. It wasn't like, you had to do it when your commanding officer wasn't around. It was actually endorsed by the state, and it was in three ways. One was just straight up fighting with spears until blood was drawn. Anyone that's seen Spartacus or any other version of this, or like the any of the Colosseum sort of scenes, this is the actual hazing initiation. And then intentionally underfeeding them, like starving people out, because they would force these Spartans to, as they were children, to go out and steal food. They weren't getting fed by the trainers, and it was more about, can you steal food? Like, can you get away with it? And if you got caught, you would get beaten. But it wasn't because you were stealing. You would get beaten because you got caught stealing. It was getting caught that was the real fault there. And then also the older boys were trained to whip the younger boys to toughen them up. And there was even something called a cheese altar ritual, which sounds fun, but it probably wasn't. And it's when the kids would have to run through this gauntlet of lashes in order to steal cheese off of this altar dedicated to the goddess Artemis. I actually would love to do a deeper dive on this cheese altar ritual. I hadn't heard of it before I started looking into this.
I mean, I guess now if if you want to be an Army Ranger or a Navy SEAL, you're going to get into that sort of vibe, different.
But see, those aren't sanctioned. Those are like not state sanctioned. In fact, you can get in trouble on some of those, even though one of the most famous versions of these initiation rituals was the crossing ceremonies in the Navy. And I think they still do them, but it doesn't take on the same sort of characteristics that it used to 100 years ago or more. So the initiates are called polywogs, which is funny just because there are some versions of Boy Scout adjacent groups which also start you as polywogs. You start out as a
related to scallywags.
Well, yeah, maybe eventually. I think it goes like polywog, and then you like turn into a frog, or I can't remember exactly the sequence of events there. But the initiation ritual for these polywogs and the crossing rituals in the Navy is that you would get shaved, tarred, and dunked in seawater and forced to kiss the belly of King Neptune. And in this case, King Neptune was usually one of the senior sailors in costume. And then you would have to crawl through rotten food and swallow vile mixtures and then be flogged with ropes and belts. And that this was something that you just did to pass the time, but also it was like these humiliation rituals, they are there to enforce the hierarchy. So going back to where all this all started is that hazing rituals establish hierarchy, which means that those that are the more senior typically are the ones that do the hazing to the younger ones. If you were to invert that, it would completely destroy the entire reason of a hazing ritual, which is to assert dominance through seniority.
Well, again, and the solution at the end to make things cool and groovy is everybody spends time getting beat up now, right? So everyone is always hazed a little bit, which I guess if that's just how that reality is.
I see. I actually think, like in retrospect, I think that Lotso had it figured out. He was actually sort of a philosopher king in a way. They paint him as this evil mafia boss manipulator, but really that seems the most fair, that the new toys coming through would take the brunt of this through this hazing ritual, and then eventually their time gets passed because there's a new donation wagon and everyone goes through this process. The other thing is that now whoever has been there the longest gets the most abuse somehow feels less fair to me.
Yeah, and that's where, but the reality of the situation, like I said, is actually like your material stuff, keeping track of your material stuff, like, which I was saying is opposite. It's like, hey, we got these computers, these laptops at work now. It's like, okay, the rules, if a kid wants to touch your laptop, that's the last kid that should be touching your laptop. It's like, if you want to be president, you shouldn't be. The kid that wants to touch the computer shouldn't touch it. Is the one least, ready to touch the computer. So that's material, management, right? Very different than, and that's the cool and groovy thing at the end. That's a little bit of the dream of communism, right? Some of them are going to end up being more equal than others. Ken's going to end up being more equal than others. He already is.
Yeah, Toy Story and Animal Farm have a lot of correlations, I think.
This one in particular, yeah. But I guess all of them do, even the first one, because, and that's where 4 is. Oh, Woody is not as equal, or not, he's less equal now. So he has to deal with that. Because he's king of the world in these first 3 movies. King Woody, Yeah,
I'm ready to see him get knocked down a few pegs.
Okay, so yeah, it'll be a little while till we get to 4. We'll forget everything we said on 3 and probably say it again when we get to 3. But these things happen.
Is there a Disney proxy in this movie?
Being separated from your demiurge, is that a proxy?
I don't know, because again, is Andy to his toys like a creator to his creations, or like a parent to the child? But even in those cases, I don't really see them getting separated from Andy as being the same thing as a child being separated from their guardian figure. If anything, Woody almost sees himself as like a protector of Andy.
Do you think perhaps the emotional manipulation of the last couple scenes with the furnace, which is going to make most kids, crap their pants, not just PM, right? And then the tear wrenching of Andy giving the toys to Bonnie, right? Like those 2 scenes really screw with people, I think,
See, maybe I'm just heartless, but I had no emotional response to Andy passing these toys off. If anything, it's kind of weird. This kid that's about to go to college is like playing with his toys and having this much, like, dude, just bring the toys with you to college if you're having that much fun with them, right? This should have just been like, hey, here's a box full of toys. Okay, see you, bye. I don't need to play with your 6-year-old daughter here.
There's something to filmmaking, though, because I was coming in mildly sarcastic, getting ready to do an occult Disney podcast, having that in my mind. Why is the 17-year-old even so obsessed with these toys? And my eyes were still tearing up a little bit. The way it's shot, the way the music's going,
I can see it because it was formulaically designed to evoke that emotional response.
That's
I also
extra strength design, like maybe you are a heartless bastard. I was being a heartless bastard last night, and it still got to me a little bit.
You know what? Toy Story 3 might be a great litmus test to see how far gone you are. How much has Disney programmed you? And you can actually measure it based on your emotional response to the ending of Toy Story 3. Because, again, the only thing happening in Toy Story 3 is that toys are your material possessions are getting saved and then passed down to someone else that's going to take care of them. It's not even really as much about the nostalgia as much as it is about these toys get to live on.
And the furnace scene only got me the first time, like, oh my God. And that one, now I can watch that one very dispassionately, right? But maybe that's just because it's danger, and the claws coming after the first time.
What? And also the other moral of this story, because Woody and the rest of the toys have pretty much accepted their fate on the way to the furnace, and they're just kind of all holding hands, and they're making these very solemn looks at each other like, this is it. Like, we are about to die right now. Let's just embrace what's about to happen. And then who saves the day? Not God, not themselves, not Andy, but an external alien force. Literal aliens are the only things that save them. And in my mind, I was like, this does feel like an anti-religious sort of give up all hope, and maybe some external non-religious force is going to be the actual savior of humanity. I feel like that seed was planted in a very subtle way.
Here's something I'm thinking of. I'm looking up his name because I think I'm going to mispronounce it. But Michael Giacchino, the film composer.
Go on.
He did Lost. I mean, he's done tons of movies. A lot. The first Star Trek 2009. Do you remember the music when everyone's escaping the ship at the beginning where Chris Hemsworth dies? Right? Have you seen Star Trek 09? Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay. Did you see any of Lost?
I did. I've seen all of Lost.
Okay, think of the like the melancholic, like something like intense just happened music.
Right.
If you put that in the furnace scene, could you melt the toys? I'm just thinking with emotional manipulation. If you change it to that melancholic, like this is happening and everything somehow weirdly will be okay. Could you kill the toys now? Could you melt Could you melt the toys? They're going to get melted. We don't know if they're getting killed, really.
I think so. Just the same way that you can tell in most movie. I think Up did this a few times. Almost every movie that has these sad moments, it'll go silent, and then there'll be some somber piano, one note at a time, with like a lot of extra reverb on it. And for some reason, that has this big emotional response. If you just replace that with like Supertramp or something, right? Or like Hall & Oates. I do think that
some La Freak.
Right, yeah. If you throw in like some Super Freak or something, or some Funkadelic, I do think that it changes the emotional response, and you would be okay with maybe killing some toys.
Here's something, and I was actually listening to the podcast, or I should cite them, but I have heard this phenomenon before that you're familiar with. Maybe you're going to do it next month if you can. The Cosmic Rewind Guardians ride, right?
Oh, right. I have no idea what it's about. I just know that apparently it's one that you have to reserve way in advance.
Yeah. Okay. I won't tell you anything that's on the ride. I've watched one. It's not a ride you can easily watch a ride through. It's like Space Mountain or something. But it has one of 6 pop songs that's going to play on your roller coaster. It can be Disco Inferno. It can be Iran. It could be what else they play on there? Congo. But the one of the songs is Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and multiple people, you can find videos on YouTube. Apparently people are having like enlightening experiences by riding this roller coaster with Everybody Wants to Rule the World playing. Somehow the melancholic of that, but it still fits on a roller coaster.
You said Iran, Congo, and Everyone Wants to Rule the World. I mean, this just sounds like a CIA playbook for the 1970s, right?
Well, people are having it's an emotional roller coaster for them when it's Everybody Rules the World, which it does make you think about mass, like kind of programming. Because you ride this ride, you have this experience that feels somewhat enlightening in a way, So that's kind of interesting. And then you do it again with Congo, and you're going to have a very different experience.
The next step is they put the God helmet on you right before you get onto the ride.
Yeah, sure, why not? I think you see gods on the ride, or celestions, whatever. They have gods. It's a weird ride. Maybe you'll be able to tell me more about it. But just that mixing whatever with the music can change things so much. And that's maybe because I'm thinking Up again. I didn't tear up watching Up, and
Well, what if you're being led into the incinerator, and then Randy Newman starts singing about being led into an incinerator?
No, we're going into the fire. Here we go with all your friends in the fire. We're gonna burn in the fires of hell. That's not very Newman at the end there. Yeah. I'm just saying there are ways that you could have ended the movie there and really screwed with people's minds. But still made it be like artistically, well, I guess you can do that.
And I guess this is the reason that I find this movie the most insidious. Is I actually saw this one in the movie theater because My friend's kid wanted to go and see it, and he was like at the perfect age where they actually understood what was going on. And I remember people getting emotional at the end of this movie, and like you're hearing people sniffle, and like everyone's walking out, and you know clearly people were crying. I was just like, what were you crying about? That toys almost got thrown out? This is crazy. And I've never been able to shake that surreal feeling that a room full of people were crying about fake toys that didn't even exist, almost got thrown out in a virtual world that never existed either. It was a sort of just a strange detachment, I guess.
I think it is the filmmaking, though, is very, I mean, it's a masterfully keyed scene because you're getting this amazing acting from Woody at that point, who's in toy form and plastic form and CGI form. Everything, there's nothing real there, you know?
I gotta say, the moment when you see that they're all making eye contact with each other and they're just reaching out and holding hands, like, you know that they have accepted death, which makes it a fairly powerful scene. Like, this goes way deeper than I think a 6 or a 7-year-old knows when they're watching this. I wonder how much nuance gets picked up of like, oh, they've all just embraced death.
Right. That's why they need to go into the fire. They've crossed that bardo. They're ready, you know? I mean, they are plastic. This is going to happen at some point. Why not now?
Well, and just to point out, if they do live in compatible universes in Child's Play, Chucky gets melted over and over and over again, and he keeps coming back. So really being incinerated would not necessarily mean the end of your life in the Toy Story universe if they operate by the same rules.
Right. I think we just have to assume that they would. Do you have any other big points or rabbit holes you need to jump into?
That's it. This is worse than Dick Castles.
Definitely like I said, I think it's a great movie, but it is like you have to study it. Like, why does this movie emotionally manipulate people so much? And it's clear. This one, it's not. You know, like they're making people sob over a bit of plastic.
Right. A person. There's at this point in the movie when the toys are about to be incinerated, not a single human character in the entire Toy Story universe is at risk of being harmed in any way. Worst case scenario is that Andy's like, hey, I wonder what happened to that box of toys. And then he goes off to college and he meets a girl and it's all over. And no one cares about it ever again. Bonnie doesn't know what she missed out on. The mom couldn't care less. She's asking him to throw it out, right? The only things that are capable of harm becoming them are these inanimate objects. Or I guess in the movie, they are animate objects. But these material possessions that you are literally, if you have an emotional response, it's because you were afraid that toys were going to die.
Hey, I've had Star Wars toys cooling in my bedroom closet for 20 years. Hadn't seen the light of day, unless they got out themselves, of course. But they're packed deep in there. It's going to be hard to get out of there. Sorry, guys. That's being buried alive if you're a toy that's alive. Okay, let's roll into what's going on for for audio listeners, we're getting to the end of April. Maybe it's May for other folks.
And if you're following along on the Paranoid American YouTube channel, it might be December. I don't even know yet. No, hopefully it's not that late. But also, if you're audio, you're probably not able to check out this very sweet Occult Disney shirt, which is not available. So I don't even know why I'm promoting it. You can't even get one if you wanted one. But maybe I'll make them available to like Patreons only. But I do feel like I needed an Occult Disney shirt at some point. So now I got one. I'll make sure that you get one. That I'm working on a couple others that I'll put in the paranoidamerican.com store. Just go there, man. At this point, I've got so many projects going on. It's easier for you to pick out your favorite one by just going to paranoidamerican.com. Check out some toys, check out some videos, check out music albums, sticker packs, all kinds of stuff. Just go there and look on the front page. Guaranteed you'll find at least one thing that you were like, oh, didn't even know that existed and now I want it.
Yeah, it's mostly all podcasting for me down there at the podcastius.org. Talk about the Twilight Zone, talk about films that are rated very highly or very poorly on IMDb, talk about Planet of the Apes. So I've I never get to watch things for fun. I'm always watching things for podcasts. People are like, why don't you watch this TV show? It's like, no, I'm not. I still haven't seen Severance. I don't have time to watch Severance. It's on my computer, but I haven't had time to watch it. That's where I am on Severance and Andor. Also,
Severance is like Rick and Morty for people that take themselves more serious than they should.
Okay, it's one of my other hosts that keeps telling me co-hosts that keeps telling me watch Severance. So I feel like I have to at some point. For audio listeners, we're taking a little bit of a break. I got a vacation. Actually, I guess when we're doing this, I'm going to be at Disney Sea. So I don't know if I'll have that T-shirt by then. Maybe I go around Disney Sea with a called Disney T-shirt and see if I get kicked out or not.
I don't. It's not that kind of a shirt.
No, it's not. It's no. It's just a Mickey Mouse with a American flag on his head. Is that what we got?
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's a hoodie. Okay, that's a cape. Got it. Yeah,
he's got a like an all-seeing eye, like a single big eye in his head.
Oh, I get you got is that Steamboat Willie Mickey? So he's perfectly legit.
Correct.
So.
Well, yeah, hopefully, but it also has the word Disney on it, which I think might be.
Right. Okay, just noting. Okay, well, if you throw away anything in your house, cry.
All American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
All American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.